Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here again with a new video, and I know it's been a while since I've recorded one of these, but fuck it, we're all stuck in quarantine, got nothing better to do, so may as well try and use the YouTube channel. Who knows, maybe I can get to 111,000 subscribers in another 3 years. But let's start with a big story today, talking about the Valve CSGO TF2 source code leak that I'm sure you've heard about on the internet today. It's a crazy story, there's lots of misinformation out there, so I'm going to try and summarize it all in as short a time span as possible, just to basically explain what it means for you, what you need to be worried about, what the response has been, and so forth. Let's start at the beginning. The news came out via Twitter. There is an account called 2 Eggs with 2 additional S's, so 3 S's in total. 2 Eggs is somebody that works with Norse, who you might have heard of, Norse with a 3. They basically data mine and take a look at upcoming patches and beta builds and whatnot for CSGO and I suppose other Valve games. So they can get information about perhaps things that have fallen by the wayside or new features that are coming out, and they generally have a pretty decent record of leaking things ahead of time. So anyway, this is the start of it. As you can see, first news of the day. The source code of Team Fortress and CSGO from 2017, run about Operation Hydra, has been leaked and published onto the internet for everyone to see, use, and download. Yikes. This is what I've ascertained so far on the leak. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Someone had access to this source code as part of the Source Engine license and distributed it to Tyler McVicker. Now, if you don't know who Tyler McVicker is the mind behind VNN, Valve News Network, a very popular YouTube channel that also has a pretty good rate of accuracy when it comes to leaking things around Valve or finding old and abandoned projects. Obviously is connected to former and or current Valve staff and gets a lot of his information that way. It's about 330,000 subscribers, so if you don't subscribe to it, you probably should. If you're interested in this sort of thing, I do. I found it to be a pretty definitive channel to follow if you're interested in Valve's game development process. Anyway, Tyler McVicker had this thingy called Lever Softworks, which was a source engine modding community. He had employed someone called Max, and Max was unfortunately fired from his position. So in frustration, I can only assume he went ahead and leaked all the source code for Team Fortress 2 and Counter-Strike that he also had, and went ahead and leaked some conversations which were presumably with a Valve employee too. This is what I know I've heard so far, but I can only assume more info might come out. Now, obviously, this is a tale as old as time on the internet. People have employees, people have trustees, people have confidants, and then over somewhat petty grievances, they leak all your DMs, they leak all your secrets. If they have access to Twitch accounts or YouTube accounts, they take over them for their own nefarious purposes and pretty much fuck you over and fuck all the work you've done. I don't know how many times we're going to hear about this before people realize, really, when it comes to the internet, the person you should trust is just yourself. But it's sad that this happened, and it is going to be very disruptive, and it could have caused a lot of potential trouble for Tyler McVicker. Now, I'll say this. Big part of the disinformation that was going out there was that Tyler McVicker was responsible for the leak. Tyler McVicker had been inside the code and leaked things to other people who then in turn leaked it. None of these things are true. From what we can gather from what Tyler McVicker has said and the information that's out there, basically it is this one individual that was a disgruntled, laid off employee, had access to something that had already leaked in the past in 2018, and Tyler McVicker and his group of friends and colleagues working with Valve managed to keep a lid on it, managed to keep it secret that it had leaked. So the damage wasn't as far wide-reaching as it possibly could have been. Now with this chap, Max, being put out to pasture, he's decided he's going to maliciously leak the source code. And that is a cause for concern. No two ways about it. Before we take a look at that cause for concern, let's just look at Tyler McVicker's response to it. He put some messages out on his Discord, which were helpfully put on the internet by 2 Eggs. I keep thinking of that chicken from Face It whenever he talks. It's not the same person. He's not a chicken. Tyler McVicker said here, I didn't leak anything. The chat logs that are contained within the leak are from October 2016, being one of the conversations I had with a source at that time. The f-stop build isn't real. It's a build of what Lever was working on. I will be submitting all the evidence I have on the source code leak to Valve's legal department. The code was first leaked to major parts of the Source Engine community back in the fall of 2018. I had contacted all official email addresses I had at the time to warn Valve of this. I know exactly who did this, and unfortunately for that person, it's entirely possible to find it out by just looking at the f-stop modding build and referencing the save files. To repeat, I made nothing here public. I did not leak anything here. This leak is the result of a third party of whom I am entirely aware of. I'll be taking any questions from this community along with any more news to the community, or anyone new to the community, because of it in my Discord DMs. Feel free to contact me at any time. All chat logs leaked are at least 2 years old. We'll come to the chat logs in a second, but Tyler then later put out another message after he talked with Valve's legal department. So again, there was a lot of misinformation flying around at this time that was saying, oh, Valve News Network's fucked up, Valve News Network's in big trouble, Valve News Network's leaked something, and it was just, you know, it's always a shame to see somebody have malice misattributed to them. Tyler McVicker said, I have submitted my report to Valve Legal with all evidence I have that hasn't been leaked already. Unfortunately for those involved, I've recently had a direct communication channel to this legal department. Obviously, there will be a significant amount of misinformation regarding me. I would say make sure to take most claims made about myself, the channel, and the people I used to associate with a grain of salt. I am requesting, I guess that should be will/am requesting a removal of all talk regarding the source on this server. Discussions about the Lever f-stop build, aftermath, the chat logs, or anything else that leaked is fine and welcome. If you have any questions about the approved materials, I will be happy to answer anything you may have. It is embarrassing to have my private conversations aired out to the world. However, they are all at least 1.5 years old and were never meant to be public reported information. So really, there is nothing I can do, and I should just accept it as public information now. Lastly, I want to make sure this is clear. The source code originally was leaked back in 2018 by a Source Engine dev. I did not provide or had ever downloaded the code in question. I discussed its contents with some of my friends. However, I had also reported its existence to Valve as soon as I had learned of it, again in late 2018. To reiterate, I did not provide any of the leak code to the person who leaked it today. And then underneath, again, the source code that leaked did not come from the Valve employee I had conversations with. It came from a repo dev back in 2018. The leak of both the chat log and the code at the same time is done to make it seem like the materials originated from me. They did not. So what is the upshot? What is coming out about this? Well, before we get into the potential danger that could be facing you as a gamer, it turns out not a lot of much, by the way, spoiler. One of the conversations that got highlighted was with presumably a Valve employee who was operating under the name Cephalon, obviously to preserve anonymity. I assume Tyler McVicker has done his due diligence and vetted this person to prove that they are who they say they are. I have no reason to doubt any of this. And this was the chat log that came out. Just a little snippet of it. This is what was kind of blowing up and getting people to discuss it. Now, I'll read it to you. It's pretty small, just in case you can't see it. It says, from Cephalon, we're in serious legal trouble about CSGO Lotto and may be forced to kill the API over it. Now, just immediately when I saw this, I was like, this is probably a genuine chat log, because for those who followed my career, I was heavily involved in exposing a lot of the rigged skins casinos, a lot of the skins casinos that used fake advertising methods and were essentially profiteering off the skins trade by using the Valve API. There was multiple class action suits that came out, but during all of my reporting and all of the exposés I did, And I talked to a Valve source at that time, and they told me then that, yes, they were considering shutting down the API because it just seemed to be one big fucking headache. In the end, as you can see from previous videos on this channel, they rallied. They decided that they would go down a route of changing how skins trading and all that stuff operated. They didn't decide to do anything as drastic as shutting down the API, which I think is one of the great things that Valve does, because in general, it leads to cool stuff getting made and not stuff that is can be used for malicious purposes. But that immediately, right there, based on the timeline that Tyler already said, it would be a hell of a coincidence if that wasn't genuine, because I was told the same thing completely independently, probably approximately at the same time. And it goes on, saying, I'm not a fan of where we're going in terms of microtransactions and random loot. Tyler McVicker replies with, well, it's been around for 7-ish years now. Paid sprays. And then Cephalon says, yeah. For those that don't remember, when paid sprays were introduced, you could get a spray, you know, blah, 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 and all of this stuff. That upset a lot of people because it was like a limited charge, and not like how it used to be in the old days where you just uploaded a spray that you liked and your clan or team could have a spray and you could use it in the game. People saw this as more Valve profiteering. Tyler McVicker says, explain this to me. Why was that seen as a good idea? And the community were very critical about this when it first came out. And Cephalon says, it wasn't by anyone except the CSGO team, which is the worst group to work with. Tyler McVicker says, is it really? And Cephalon says they do not care at all. Some do, I assume. So this is the upshot of the kind of stuff that's likely to come out as a result of these leaks, and that is embarrassment for Valve, because a lot of private conversations, and in my experience as a journalist, sometimes there's exaggeration and hyperbole in there when people feel they're off the record, they're on background, they're shooting the shit. A lot of sources are disgruntled employees, people that aren't happy with the projects they work on or the company they work for, and that's why they're talking to a journalist in the first place. And as a result of that, there can be a tendency to exaggerate in there. So you can take this with a pinch of salt if you want. It's been speculated for a long time, if you are a CSGO enthusiast like I am, that they don't really... There is this idea that it's a really small enclave of people within Valve that are keeping CSGO alive. It's not seen as a flagship game in the same way Dota is. It's not seen as an enjoyable project to work on, and that people would rather work on shit like Artifact than sort of come over and do some cool stuff in CSGO. That's been often speculated. This seems to be in line with this idea that the CSGO team are difficult. They don't want to copy things from Dota that we know work. They don't mind putting in microtransactions that seem to be a little bit predatory. Whatever. If we assume this is genuine, there's still no reason to assume that the contents of the conversation, while they did happen, and it is a Valve employee making them, aren't exaggerated a little. So make of that what you will. But in addition to this, and I won't go into it because, you know, the video is probably already running long. I have a tendency to waffle, as people know, but it's all good waffle. There has already been people breaking down the source code and going, oh my god, look at how shit this code is. Look at this. I could have fixed this in 5 minutes. Oh my god, look at the spaghetti code. What? Now we know why this was broken for so long, and blah, blah, blah. So a lot of embarrassment is going to come out for Valve because their code is being scrutinized, and with conversations like this sort of lifting the veil on what is a very closed company, there's going to be embarrassment. But what you probably don't have to worry about is all of the scaremongering that immediately came out when the leak happened. And the scaremongering was, oh my god, no, now that the source code is leaked out, everyone's going to be able to hack. Everyone's going to be able to hack your PC. Everyone's going to be able to just jump onto your computer. People are going to be able to delete your skins. It's all over. Oh god, the world is ending. And I'm watching this in real time on Twitter and going, okay, I mean, sounds bad. But what's the upshot of it? Well, let's start with TF2, where the biggest portion of misinformation got spread. There was a screenshot, and again, I'll apologize if it's a screenshot for ants. It was hard to get all this before a lot of this stuff disappeared off the internet. You can see here, this was an alert. Somebody jumping onto your TF2 game. I'm getting into your account right now by TF2. TF2 is dead. Post this on Reddit. That was a homophobic slur, because where would we be if hackers weren't throwing that in there? And then owned by CatHook. Now, if you don't know what CatHook is, or who CatHook is, it's a cheat developer, cheat coder, and does make cheats for this game. So this gets spread on Twitter, it gets spread on Discord, it gets spread on Reddit, and I'm reading, you absolutely mustn't log on to TF2, because now there's going to be this backdoor that's going to enable cheaters to exploit cheat coders to exploit a vulnerability and take over your PC. As it happened, this was then further repeated on the TF2 Discord by a chap called Elk TF2, where people were recommending that just don't jump into the game right now, don't go on any servers right now, because the developer of CatHook has discovered a way to remote code execute on TF2 just by you being on the same server with them. This allows anyone who does this to run any code on your computer, including viruses, turning your game into an aimbot, or deleting your items. Playing TF2 is dangerous right now, and we suggest not playing until there is some kind of fix for this. Now, this is the interesting part. Turns out cheat coders ain't the dumbest motherfuckers out there. They have to be pretty smart. I mean, I've talked about this a lot. You can generally separate them into two groups. Actually smart people that understand code, understand marketing, and are just doing what they're doing because it's lucrative and probably could do something else. And script kiddies that just act like they have some sort of social disorder. They're the two groups of cheat coders. Anyone that's interacted with them will tell you this. Cheat coders that fall into the former category, you'll be giving this video a knowing smile right now. But this wasn't accurate as to what was happening at all. Turned out it was a bit of clever advertising. The screenshot was fake, it was spread around Discord, and there is no evidence of a remote code execute hack out there that people can use to take over your machine and delete all your skins or whatever else apocalyptic scenario is being proffered as the truth. In fact, I will just add, knowing that an RCE bug could have been out there, it's not the wildest thing in the world. It's definitely happened before. I think in 2017, there was a buffer overflow vulnerability, which was in TF2, CSGO, Portal 2, and you could inject exploits in through that security vulnerability, and they had to patch it out. But the official TF2 Twitter account by Valve responded saying, as far as they can see, having, knowing the build that's out there publicly, they don't think there's anything to worry about. So you can see there, from our review, we've not found any reason for TF2 players to be alarmed or avoid the current builds, but as always, playing on the official servers is recommended for greater security. We will continue to investigate the situation, and we'll update news outlets and players if we find anything to prove otherwise. In the meantime, if anyone has more information about the leak, the Valve security page, next tweet, describes how best to report that information, and then they link to it. Now again, whether or not this is an example of a big corporation, a big company doing damage control, that's up to you to decide. But I have a tendency to believe Valve when it comes to this. They have a decent record on the responses to this in the past. They've never been caught in a lie when it comes to things like this in the past, unlike some other companies that are out there, naming no names, of course, but you know who. This seems to me to be an example of social media at its worst, that there was a lot of scaremongering, a lot of bullshit flying out there, and not a lot of it true, and a cheat coder has now got a lot of free advertising, including this video, by the way. I'm part of the problem, I guess, because of a faked screenshot. So you should always double check these things before you go ahead and spread them. Then people started to worry and started to, oh God, well, what about CSGO? Well, the good news for you guys is that they put out a very similar, if you're a CSGO player, they put out a very similar statement on the official CSGO account, which was just to alleviate fears, just to let everybody know that we've reviewed the leak code. We believe it to be a reposting of a limited CSGO engine code depot released to partners in late 2017 and originally leaked in 2018. You will notice there, by the way, that is Valve confirming Tyler McVicker's version of events in that one sentence. From this review, we have not found any reason for players to be alarmed or avoid the current builds. As always, playing on the official servers is recommended for greater security. We will continue to investigate the situation, blah, blah, blah. Here's the link to the security. So again, no reason to be staying away from CSGO. After all, we recently just broke the player record that Dota had held since 2016, 1.3 million people. It was a little bit down today, but it hovered at 1.2 million people online while this was going on. There's no need to panic. It was all bullshit. So far, so good. But again, if somebody knows something, don't sit on it. Give it to Valve. Go through that security link there to stop any further leaks. So overall, really, I think what we're going to get down to when we look at the crux of it all is it's going to be a big embarrassment for Valve. It's not going to be anything to worry about, hopefully, long-term for anybody. If you play TF2, if you play CSGO, keep playing it. It's absolutely fine. And Godspeed, you beautiful Team Fortress 2 players, after all this time. Still a better game than Overwatch. But just if you're really interested in this and you want more than this video, this 20-minute summary or whatever we're at right now, I would totally recommend you go on over to Tyler McVicker, the chat behind the Valve News Network, in case you forgot. Go over to his Twitch channel. As reported by PC Gamer, he did a pretty thorough Q&A. It's over an hour long. You can see here just confirmation from the Steam database as well that the leak was real. But if you go over there, he has a VOD. It's called Tyler McVicker, a casual Q&A. It's just over an hour long. It'll answer all of the questions about how the leak happened. I've already watched it today. It's a very good listen if you're interested in the topic. And I have to feel sorry for him in the way that his reputation is obviously going to take a hit because of the malicious actions of somebody that, by all accounts, was petty, vengeful, and spiteful because they were told, look, we just don't need you anymore. Sorry about that. So there it is. Let's wrap it up. I'm not going to waffle on anymore. There's no need to. That is the summary. That is everything you need to know. Thanks a lot, by the way, for jumping back over to the YouTube channel. If you're returning, make sure you haven't been unsubscribed. They've been doing that a lot. If you like this video and you want to see more of it, I'm going to be more active now that I got 2 months more of quarantine with fuck all to do before my big move. More on that if you watch my live stream. But thanks for all the support as always. Be sure to, subscribe, click that bell, whatever YouTubers say. Who gives a fuck? Thanks a lot for listening, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.